Goranga. Go, Ranga. Okay. One more step. And we are live. Okay. Goranga. Go, Ranga. Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay. All right, let's have a kirtan. And as I mentioned last night, we will use the harmonium instead of the guitar right now because I'm giving my fingers a little rest because I really got too enthusiastic the other day during a kirtan. You don't want to get too enthusiastic, and I started wailing at the guitar, which is not a bad idea, but not if you want to keep your fingers intact. So, we will chant Vajahu Re Mana Shri Nandanandana on the harmonium. Vajahu Re Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Bindure Vajahure Mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Bindure Dulava Manava Janama Satsange Manava Janama Satsange. Wait, someone you're going to send a text in the middle of the song, then you really have to be careful because I'll check it and see if there's anything wrong. Okay. Manava Janama Satsange Taro E Baba Kalasindu Re Taro E Baba Kalasindu Re Sita Hataba Madhavarishana Shitahatava Madhavarishana Hedina Yamene Jagire Hedina Yamene Jagire Vipala Sevinu Kripanadurajana Vipala Sevinu Kripanadurajana Vipala Sevinu Kripanadurajana Jabala Sukha Lama Lagire Jabala Sukha Lama Lagire Govana Putra Vijana Itte Kayate Para Tire Itte Kayate Para Jala jala jivana tura mala kamala jala jala jivana jala mala vajagon hare pada dani Vajanare pada netire Shavana kirtana smarana vandana Shavana kirtana smarana vandana Pada Sevana Dashare Pada Sevana Dashare Ujana Sati Jana Mani Vedana Ujana Sakti Jana Atma Nivedana Govinda Dasavi Lashure Bhajahure Mana Shinandana Nana Abhaya Charana Ravindure Bhajahure Mana Shinandanandana Abhaya Charana Ravindure Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada, Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Shila Prabhupada, 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paragvadakacharya All Sutera Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasiti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachardi Nirvashesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Desha Tarane Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So let me read the translation to this poem by Govinda Das Kaviraj Thakur. O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence by associating with saintly persons. Day and night I remain sleepless, suffering heat and cold, wind and rain. For a bit of flickering happiness I have vainly served wicked and miserly men. What assurance of real happiness is there in all one's wealth, youth, sons, and relatives? This life totters like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore you should always worship the lotus feet of Lord Hari. Govindadas longs to hear the glories of Lord Hari, to chant his glories, constantly remember him, offer him prayers, serve his lotus feet, become his servant, worship him, serve him as a friend, and completely offer him his very self. Govindadas Kaviraj Ki Jai. Beautiful poem. Bhajahore Mana Sri Nandanandana. So now we're going to continue with our study of the Sri Isopanisad. Just one little announcement is tomorrow, that is tomorrow for you, any of you, here in the United States or in Europe or wherever you are, we will not have this class because tomorrow night I have an evening program at someone's house, which I'm going to try to broadcast. But that evening program will be approximately 2.25 hours later than this class is. So anyway, because we have an evening program, we have to go there. So just tomorrow night we will not have this class. But today we're having the class, and I'll also mention that at the end of today's class too, just so that everybody is aware of that. So, on that happy note, Om Gana Timidandasha Gananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tuzmai Shigurupe Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. You ignorance. So, Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, let's share the screen. And we are beginning the 16th verse in the Isopanisad, and we're coming to the end of the Isopanisad pretty quickly. We'll have to decide what book we're going to read after this. So, we'll have to decide very quickly. Okay, Mantra 16 is quite interesting. It's actually a follow-up to Mantra 15. If you remember, Mantra 15 says, basically, to paraphrase it, that, my dear Lord, please remove your dazzling effulgence, which is keeping me from seeing your real form. Because that dazzling effulgence is the Brahma Jyoti. And so that's interfering with devotees, or with everybody, seeing Krishna's actual form, because it's so bright. So you have to pierce through the Brahma Jyoti, and the only way you could do that is Bhaktimam Abhijanati Yabanyas Chasmi Tatvataha. Only by bhakti can you pierce through this Brahma Jyoti and see Krishna's actual form. Only by the mercy of a devotee can you do this. So this is very important. So following up with verse 15 is verse 16. Or Mantra 16, or verse 16. And this is, anyway, it's a follow-up. You'll understand what I'm talking about when we read the translation. Bhushana karshe yamasurya prajapatya vyuharasmin samoha tejo yate rupam kalyana tamam tate pachami yo salvaso purusha soham asmi. So, Pushana, O maintainer, Eka Rishi, the primeval philosopher. Eka means like one, Rishi means, philosopher, Rishi, sage, whatever. He's the one sage, or the primeval sage. Yama, the regulating principle, because that's who Yamaraj gets his name from. Because Yamaraj means the king of regulations. Because if you don't follow the regulations then you will see Yama Raj, and it will not be a pleasant experience for you. I'm not going to tell you. Just read the Bhagavatam, 5th canto. Surya, the destination of the Suris, great devotees. That's interesting, because sometimes Surya could mean the sun, but anyway. Prajapatya, the well-wisher of the Prajapatis, progenitors of mankind. So, in other words, the original Prajapati, who is Krishna. Krishna is the original Prajapati. Prajapati means the person, the master of those who were born. And so Krishna the Gita says what? Aham bija prajapita. Same word, praja is there. I am the seed or the origin of all the praja, everyone that's born. Vyuha, kindly remove. Rashmin, the rays. Same thing we were talking about in the last verse. Samuha, kindly withdraw. Teja, effulgence. Yat, so that. Te, your. Rupam, form. Kalyana tamam, most auspicious. Like we have this word kalyana, it means very auspicious. Tamam refers to the superlative degree. The most kalyana. Tat, that. Te, your. Pachyami, I may see. Yaha, one who is. Asau, like the sun. Asau, that. Purushaha, personality of God. And Sa, myself. Aham, I, asmi, I am. The translation is, O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, Ikarishi, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, it's like Yamaraj, Yama, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. Now here's the bliss that's been added right now. Because Krishna's form is the manifestation, is not different than Krishna, of course, but is the manifestation, when you see Krishna's form, of the Ananda aspect of the Absolute. The Absolute Truth has three aspects, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Sat, you realize that with the Brahmajyoti. Chit, you sort of realize that with the Paramatma, the Lord who's everywhere. And Ananda means you realize bliss, because bliss is only fully realized eternally when you have a personal, loving relationship, because as Prabhupada said, we all have a loving propensity, and right now we are investing our loving propensity in things that will not, or people that will not, or objects that will not give us bliss, although we're hoping for it. That's why we have pets like cats, dogs, pigs. Yeah, people have pet pigs nowadays, or hamsters. I mean, for example, when I was young, I don't know if I should mention this, one of my relatives, I'm not going to mention his name, it wasn't me, used to have a hamster, and he would take the hamster is like anyway, it's a small rodent, whatever. And he would take the hamsters like a rat, very small, put it in his hand and kiss it. Of course, his mouth was probably bigger than the hamster. So he was looking for love. And nowadays, so many people have pets. Actually, as soon as this COVID hit and everybody was stuck at home, the pet market really took off. They couldn't keep up with the demand. They had to breed more pets. So anyway, bliss means relationship, loving relationship. That's the bliss. Without loving relationship, there's no bliss. And Prabhupada said that we want to express our love in an unlimited fashion, but unfortunately, it's like shining a light into a little box. The light can't go further than the border of the box, the edge of the box. But if you shine a light into space, especially a laser beam, it could go on for a very long distance, eternally in one sense. So that's what we want. We want to love, eternal love. Isn't it? So many songs about eternal love. I love you forever and ever till the cow jumps over the moon or something like that. Anyway, so you are the, so I can see your form of bliss. And that's, we give our heart to Krishna and we will not be disappointed. You are the eternal supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun, brilliant, as am I. In other words, I am also like unto the sun, but not the supreme personality of Godhead. I have the same, I, the soul, have the same qualities as you do, God, but not the same quantity of qualities. I have little qualities, a little amount of qualities. I have a little amount of attractiveness, beauty, wealth, strength, renunciation. You have unlimited in that regard. Okay, so let's read Prabhupada's purport, which basically says similar things to those things that I just talked about. The sun and its rays are one and the same qualitatively. We heard about this before. Similarly, the Lord and the living entities are one and the same in quality. That's what I just said. The sun is one, but the molecules of the sun's rays are innumerable. Another example probably gives us the ocean. And a drop of the ocean water, if the ocean was homogeneous in constitution, would have the same constitution as the ocean, but in small quantity. The sun's rays constitute part of the sun, and the sun and its rays conjointly, that means together, constitute the complete sun. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating, the Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes as verified in the Brahma Samhita 5:29. Now one may say, how is it possible for a living entity to exist in the sun? Because it's millions of degrees hot. I mean, as soon as it gets a little hot, we are finished. I mean, people die in India during the summer season because it's too hot, and then during the winter season because it's too cold. So how can living entities exist? Well, the interesting thing is, when the scientists look at different aspects, even here on Earth, in different places, they find living entities everywhere, even deep, 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 deep in the ocean, in the Mariana Trench, all the way in the bottom. And even when they go in the ocean and they see these, the vents, which have like superheated steam coming out of them, not steam exactly, superheated water coming out of them, because it's steam. And it's superheated because there's a lot of pressure underneath the sea. I'm not going to explain the whole point about pressure. And there's living entities around there. And there's living entities living all the way at the bottom of the ocean. When the pressure is so intense, it would crush iron, steel. I mean, it's really intense. Pressure increases for every 30 feet, the pressure increases 1 atmosphere. That means we are living in a situation where there's 15 pounds per square inch. Yeah, 15 pounds per square inch. And then we go down, and it gets to be 30 pounds when we get to about 30 feet. So we're able to deal with that because our body, basically because of the air in our body and everything like that, it can counteract that pressure, external pressure. I'm not going to get into the details about it. But there's living entities living in that high-pressure environment. And there's living entities living everywhere, but we cannot see them. They're of different qualities. And anyway, there are incredible things happening. Unbelievable. Look in a cell of a human body, and there's incredible things happening. So, Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating from Goloka Vrindavan. Within the sun itself resides the sun god, and similarly within the supreme spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan, from which the Brahmajyoti effulgence is emanating. So Brahmajyoti comes from the Goloka Vrindavan. The Lord enjoys his eternal pastimes as verified in the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 29. Chantamani prakata sadma sakalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabir abhipaliyantam Lakshmi sahasra shatasambramatsevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Brahmajyoti is described in the Brahma Samhita as the rays emanating from the supreme spiritual planet Goloka Vrindavan, just as the sun rays emanate from the sun globe. Unless one surpasses, that means goes beyond, the glare of the Brahmajyoti, one cannot receive information of the land of the Lord. You have to go through or go beyond the Brahmajyoti to see Goloka Vrindavan. The impersonalist philosophers, blinded as they are by the dazzling Brahmajyoti, everything is energy, everything is spiritual, it's just an illusion to think that there's variety, can realize neither the factual abode of the Lord, that means the place or the planet of God, nor its transcendental form. Limited by the poor fund of knowledge, such impersonalist thinkers cannot understand the all-blissful, transcendental form of Lord Krishna, the threefold bending form, playing a flute. In this prayer, therefore, Sri Isopanisad petitions the Lord to remove the effulgent rays of the Brahmajyoti so that the pure devotee can see his all-blissful form. Take it away. I'm not interested in it. Just interfering with my relationship with you. Turn off the light. It's like, okay, let's say you wanted to have a deep relationship with someone, and he was standing on the stage, and there were these brilliant spotlights just shining on him. They were hurting your eyes. You couldn't even keep your eyes open. You said, turn off the lights already. Turn off the lights. I remember, here's an interesting thing. One day I got more intense lights for the temple room. They were a brighter white than the softer lights that everyone's accustomed to. And it was giving people a headache. So imagine this unlimited brilliance, like billions of suns of the Brahmajyoti. It would definitely give you a migraine. You have to take a lot of medicine. By realizing the impersonal Brahmajyoti, one experiences the auspicious aspect of the Supreme, eternal. And by realizing the Paramatma, who is the Lord in the heart, the Lord in every atom, or the all-pervading feature of the Supreme, one experiences an even more auspicious enlightenment. So, in other words, realizing the Brahmajyoti is auspicious, but not that auspicious. And actually, this great devotee, Prabhupada Saraswati, said, merging in the Brahmajyoti is considered to be hell for a devotee. Kaivalya narakayate. Naraka means hell. Kaivalya means merging. But by meeting the personality of God in himself face to face, the devotee experiences the most auspicious feature of the Supreme and enjoys bliss because he has a personal relationship. Since he is addressed as the primeval philosopher and maintainer and well-wisher of the universe, the supreme truth cannot be impersonal. Haribo. I mean, if Krishna, the supreme truth, was impersonal, that is so depressing. Then the ultimate realization would be eternal coma, as we mentioned before, eternal unconsciousness, eternal death. Oh my God. Oh my God. And actually many religious people, so-called, think like that. They think, you just have God to help you remain fixed so you can actually have eternal death, ultimately. Even when I was in religious school, when I was a little kid, not Hare Krishna religious school, one of the teachers, parent, or I think it was father died that week. Somehow or other he was still teaching. And he said, class, My father died this week, and I realized when you're dead, you're dead. Finished. And I was thinking, this is supposed to be religious? So what's the use of being religious if when you're dead, you're dead? There's no need to be religious. I mean, maybe it helps you feel good, but ultimately there's no purpose. You know, the whole purpose of being religious is to connect personally with an eternal life with God. If when you're dead, you're dead, of course that sounds like a truism, when you're dead there ain't nothing, then what's the use of anything? You might as well just end it all now. If that's the end, and you have to suffer, might as well just end the suffering somehow or other. This is the verdict of Isopanisad. The word Pushan, maintainer, is especially significant, for although the Lord maintains all beings, he specifically maintains his devotees. In other words, what does it mean specifically? The Lord maintains all beings through his energies, through his representatives, but for his devotees, someone who has devoted himself to Krishna, Krishna personally takes charge. Personally. That's really important. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejanak paripasate tesham natuyukting mam yogikshem vahamyam. Krishna carries what you lack and preserves what you have. After surpassing the impersonal Brahmajyoti, that's the light, and seeing the personal aspect of the Lord in its most auspicious eternal form, the devotee realizes the absolute truth in full. Isn't that cool? In his Bhagavad Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami states, this Bhagavad Sandarbha is part of the Shat Sandarbhas. It's 6 treatises on, basically, on spiritual knowledge, love of God, the material world, everything. Really elaborate treatises. And also epistemology. How do you know what you know? Srila Jiva Goswami states the complete conception of the absolute truth is realized in the personality of Godhead because he is almighty and possesses full transcendental potencies. In other words, everything comes from him. He's in charge of everything. Almighty might means, muscles. I remember, oh my God. Just like this word, anyway, I don't know. When I was young, there was this cartoon, and his name was Mighty Mouse. Some of you may remember that cartoon. Anyway, so it was a mouse that was very powerful. So almighty means very powerful. Oh my God. What an example. The full potency of the absolute truth is not realized in the Brahmajyoti. Therefore, Brahman realization is only partial realization of the personality of Godhead. Oh, learned sages, the first syllable of the word Bhagavan has 2 meanings. Bha. The first is one who fully maintains, that's interesting, and the second is guardian. Interesting. The second, Ga, means guide, leader, or creator. The Van indicates every living being lives in him, and that he also lives in every living being. In other words, the transcendental sound Bhagavan represents infinite knowledge, potency, strength, opulence, and influence, all without a tinge of material inebriety. That means contamination. So that's interesting. Yeah, so in other words, another understanding is Bhaga means opulence, Van means full. So that's how Prabhupada usually explains it like that. But here it's a much more detailed and a different type of explanation of the word, which ends up with the same thing. Ba, guardian, Ga, guardian, guide, and Van, he's complete. Everybody lives in him. So, interesting etymological understanding. So, the Lord fully maintains his unalloyed devotees and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection. That's interesting. Here appears to be a contrast. Unalloyed devotees, and he guides them progressively on the path toward devotional perfection. Think about this. If someone's unalloyed, they're already achieved devotional perfection. So why are they going progressively on the path toward devotional perfection? Two ways to understand that. One is, if one is following strictly Krishna consciousness and dedicated his life, even though he hasn't reached perfection, he's considered unalloyed. Unalloyed means there's nothing else there other than a desire to serve Krishna. That's his objective, even though his mind may be, going here and there. And that's one way to understand it. And another way is that even when one reaches perfection, one can still progress on the path of devotional perfection, because it gets more and more and more perfect, because the more you advance in devotional service, even if you're a pure devotee, you can advance more and more. The more you realize of Krishna, the more blissful it becomes. Phew. So it's dynamic, it's not static. Okay, I got Krishna, not static. Okay, no more progress. Oh, but you can progress, or as Prabhupada would say, progress eternally. As the leader of his devotees, he ultimately awards the desired results of devotional service by giving himself to them. Here I am. I belong to you. Actually, this is an interesting statement. Krishna is the property of his pure devotees. It's interesting, isn't it? The devotees of the Lord see the Lord face to face by his causeless mercy. Thus the Lord helps his devotees reach the supermost planet, Goloka Vrindavan. Boy, I'd love to go there. Being the creator, he can bestow all necessary qualifications upon his devotees so that they can ultimately reach him. Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong, the intelligence of the intelligent. Krishna says in the Gita, Matak Smritu, Jnanamaponam Cha, giving people remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. Let's see, what other verses are there? There was another verse I was thinking of. Tesham Satadyuktanam Vajatam Pritipurubakam Dadami Buddhiyogam Tam Yenamum Mamubhyantite. To those who are devoted to me, I give them the intelligence of how they can come to me, the knowledge. In other words, since there's nothing that caused him, he is the original cause. So obviously, God is not caused by any other cause. God is eternal. He's not. How to understand that? Our tiny material brains can't understand that, because everything we have here is caused. Just like here's my mobile phone. What is the cause of it? All these different mechanisms, ingredients, design. There's so many different causes of this mobile phone or computer. We may say, what's the cause of this body? Well, maybe the immediate cause, immediate, is my parents. And then their parents, and their parents, and their parents, and go back to the original parent. That is Krishna. Consequently, he enjoys his own self by manifesting his own internal potency. So Krishna enjoys by manifesting or interacting with his spiritual potency. Spiritual. Internal means spiritual potency. Here's the word, internal potency or energy. The external potency, which means, and I'll outline this word, hopefully you can see that. External means material energy, is not exactly manifested by him. For he expands himself as the Purushas, and it is in these forms that he maintains the features of the material manifestation. By such expansions, he creates, maintains, and annihilates the cosmic manifestation. What does it mean to? It is not exactly manifested by him, not manifested by him directly. Because the external potency is an expansion, in one sense, an expansion of the internal potency. And he expands himself to deal with it. But still, even as the Purushas means the expansion of Krishna as the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. What that means is the Mahavishnu is the one who breathes out and all the universes come from him. The Garbhodakshay Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna that enters into every universe and gives birth to Lord Brahma. And then the Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the Lord who is within everyone's heart and every atom. But still, all these three manifestations of Krishna, which are non-different than Krishna, but just Krishna manifesting himself differently, all these three never touch material energy. Even if they appear to be within the material creation, they're actually within a bubble of the spiritual creation within the material creation because they never touch the material energy. The expansion of Krishna that touches the material energy is known as Shambhu. Or for those of you who don't know who Shambhu is, that's Lord Shiva. The living entities are also differentiated, means different, expansions of the Lord's self, that's us, because some of them desire to be lords and imitate the Supreme Lord. He allows them to enter into the cosmic creation with the option to fully utilize their propensity to lord it over nature. So we all wanted to lord it over nature and imitate Krishna. You may say, I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? Your body is evidence. Just the fact that you're walking around with the material body is evidence that you wanted to enjoy separate from Krishna. And you want to be the Lord. You want to be the center. You want to control. You want to be the enjoyer. And therefore you have tried to get your own energies to surround you. Like, you may have some money, that's wealth. You may have some intelligence, that's, intelligence, knowledge. You may have some strength, like you working out, lifting weights, pumping iron. Or you may be getting married. And that's because you want to have your own energies, or you want to expand and have little children because you want to have your own energies. Sorry about that. Because of the presence of his parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world, and you want to have cars and everything. Because of his presence of his parts and parcels, the living entities, the entire phenomenal world is stirred into action and reaction. In other words, there's cause and effect. Thus, the living entities are given full facilities to lord it over material nature. But the ultimate controller is the Lord himself, in his plenary feature as Paramatma, the Super Soul, who is one of the Purushas. So the Paramatma is basically controlling everything. How do we say that? Well, why do we say that? Because he is in everyone's heart, giving everybody intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And that way you can control people. Yep. If you could enter into people's hearts and control what they know and what they don't know and what they have ability to know, you've got those people under control. Yep. So he's got the whole world in his hands. That's God. Thus there's a gulf. There's a lot of difference between the living entity, Atma, and that's us, and the controlling Lord, Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. Paramatma is the controller, that's God, and the Atma is us, the soul, is the control. Therefore, they're in different categories. Because the Paramatma fully cooperates with the Atma, he is known as the constant companion of the living being. He's cooperating, but he's not doing what the Atma wants. The Atma is doing what he wants. And of course, the Atma has some free will, so he awards the Atma according to the Atma's desires. But it's all part of his plan to try to bring the Atma back, that's us back, to the spiritual world. The all-pervading feature of the Lord, that's the Brahman, the light, which exists in all circumstances, awakening and sleeping, as well as in potential states, and from which the Jiva Shakti living force is generated as both conditioned and liberated souls, is known as Brahman. So, since the Lord is the origin of both Paramatma and Brahman, he is the origin of all living entities and all else that exists. Those who know this engage at once in the devotional service of the Lord. If someone's the boss, the controller, and he's in your heart, giving you intelligence, obviously you should be on his good side. It's not a good idea to be on his bad side. Such pure and fully cognizant, that means aware, devotees of the Lord, are fully attached to him in heart and soul, and whenever such devotees assemble with similar devotees, they have no other engagement but the glorification of the Lord's transcendental activities. Those who are not as perfect as the pure devotees, namely those who have realized only the Brahman or Paramatma feature of the Lord, cannot appreciate the activities of the perfect devotees. The Lord always helps the pure devotees by imparting necessary knowledge. I talked about this within their hearts. And thus, out of his special favor, he dissipates them. He gets rid of all the darkness of ignorance. Isn't it? Tesham Samadad. Ahamagyana Dhyan Tamaha Nasham Matmabhavashto Gyanadipena Bhashvata. I dwell in their hearts. Destroy this ignorance. So Krishna gets rid of ignorance. The speculative philosophers and yogis cannot imagine this because they more or less depend on their own strength. In other words, their realization, or attempts to realization, are based upon their own abilities. But you can't, because you just can't reach God that way. Because Krishna says, I'm not revealed. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. It's by my energies, that's yogamaya or Krishna's potency, he keeps himself from being revealed. Because, why? Because they're envious of Krishna. Why would someone want to reveal himself to those who don't like him or those who are trying to copy him? Just like if you want to see a great man, well, very few great men around, but let's say you wanted to see the President of the United States, you show up outside the White House and you say, I'm going to see him. Why? Because I'm so nice. On my own strength. Yeah, you'll be stopped, maybe shot, or put in prison, or whatever. So the point is you can't see Krishna based on your own strength. You have to have Krishna see you first. Prabhupada would use this expression often. He said, don't try to see Krishna. And many times we're trying to see Krishna. You know, this is a problem of hearing or listening to too many intimate pastimes and thinking you understand them, and then just imagining you're understanding and seeing or perceiving things in your mind's eye. No, Prabhupada said, let Krishna see you. Let Krishna see you. In other words, you have to be pure enough so you are able to see Krishna, or not able to, so Krishna can reveal himself. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. So Krishna reveals himself to you. That's the only way. You cannot attack the kingdom of God. As stated in the Katha Upanishad 1:2:23, the Lord can be known only by those whom he favors. Exactly what I just said. And not by anyone else. Because the only way to get rid of the dirt in the heart is to have Krishna cleanse it. Prabhupada said if we try to cleanse it ourselves, our heart can be compared to a piece of coal. Coal is like dirty. Anyone's ever seen a clean, of course they have clean coal, but it doesn't mean that it's clean. You wouldn't want to take a bath with coal. Use it as soap. So if Prabhupada said our heart is like a piece of coal. You take some coal and you scrub it down, and it simply gets your hands dark. And it doesn't become clean or light. So such special favors are bestowed upon his pure devotees only. And the pure those who serve the pure devotees get the mercy of the pure devotees. That's the key. Yasha prasada bhagavat prasada, yasha prasada nagati katopi. You get the mercy of a pure devotee, and then Krishna will reciprocate with you. Sri Isopanisad thus points to the favor of the Lord, which is beyond the purview. That means where the Brahmajyoti is. So there's a very interesting verse which follows up with the 15th verse. And now we will end, or not end, but we will take some questions, hopefully. Some of you will be intelligent enough to ask questions. Let me just allow you to unmute yourselves. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, you should be allowed to unmute yourselves now. So who has a question? Okay, Rakesh, I guess you have a question.
I have a couple of questions, Gurudev.
Okay.
The first question from yesterday class, day before yesterday class, you talked about that. What I have read so far that when if a person is, let's say, Mayavadi or a Brahmavadi, he goes up to Brahma Jyoti and then he gets bored up there and then he comes back to the material world. But
Yes.
you said there is no consciousness up there when you go to the Brahm Jyoti. Then
Yes.
how would you board? Like how would you have the desire doesn't manifest up there? Then why would a person come back?
I would say more fidgety, bored. The souls. There's yeah, consciousness is not manifest there, but at the same time, I mean, just like if one's sleeping, sometimes the body gets a little fidgety, even though you're not conscious. So the soul in the spiritual Brahma Jyoti is not situated in its natural realm. I mean, I'm just using a material example of getting bored. Obviously, it's not that I've been here so long and bored. But the soul's constitution, that is, his constitution to be naturally active and loving and everything like that, forces uh, the soul to leave the Brahmajyoti. So it's not exactly, I'm using the word bored, but it's not exactly like that. It's that constitutionally, he doesn't belong in there. Constitutionally, he belongs in a relation. So he's out of place there. He or she or it or whatever you call is out of place. So it falls out. Okay. Don't try to tear apart the analogy or the metaphor to try to understand. It's just to basically help us get a grasp on things. Metaphors are not proof.
So
Analogy, but they're
I
just like
understand.
point you in a direction so you can understand.
So soul up there have these like so according to you, there's no desire. They don't talk with each other with other souls, and they
No,
just lie.
you don't talk with other souls in the Brahmajyoti. Hello, soul. What are you doing
Yeah,
here? What are you doing? I don't
they
know.
don't.
What are you doing today? I don't know. What are you doing today? Like sometimes when I was young, it was like that with friends. I'd call up my friend on the phone. Hello, Sam. What are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah,
What are you doing? What do you plan to do today? I don't know. What are you planning to do today? I don't know. This is not exactly like that.
that's what I was like. So, so some of them
The
still stay.
constitution, the constitution of the soul forces the soul to leave.
Okay,
So they say the soul gets fidgety, or you may say the soul gets bored, and these are just approximations, not really that accurate, but just to help us understand. Okay,
I have.
so
If there's a question, I'll stop. Otherwise, I will keep asking questions.
let someone else ask a question. Someone else?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Rishikesh. Okay, Haribol.
Thanks. Gurudev, a question is best way to serve a pure devotee and get his blessings. Because pure devotees are not always accessible. Uh,
Well,
like if
they're
I go to Vrindavan, it's hard for me to know who is a pure devotee. So how do I get the association that way
pure
and
devotees
serve
are
the
very
devotees?
accessible. Pure devotees are very accessible because contact with pure devotees is not dependent upon the physical
I can
plane.
hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Everybody else can. Can you hear me now? Can everybody hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, now I
So,
can hear you.
yeah, everybody else is hearing me.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, everybody else can hear me. So, associated with pure devotees is not dependent upon physical proximity because they are spiritual entities. So we can actually associate with Prabhupada by hearing or reading his books, hearing from him, serving his mission, and Prabhupada can give us his blessings. So we have this conception. I mean, many people, especially in India, have the conception in order to get the blessings of a pure devotee, you have to be physically present, and he has to like hold his hand up like this and say, Ashirvad, my blessings, my son. Anyway, so yes, so that's a misconception that we have about getting the blessings. Getting the blessings means to please a pure devotee who may or may not be physically present, And we have Prabhupada's association and other pure devotees too. I mean, you could please certainly Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur or your spiritual master when he's not physically present. If pleasing the pure devotee is dependent on physical presence, we're all in trouble. I mean, I'm in trouble. I'm in big trouble if it's dependent on Prabhupada's physical presence. Tremendous trouble. I mean, I'm in hot water. So, does that make sense?
Yes, Gurudev. Thank you so much.
And you know when you're pleasing a pure devotee because you start to get an attachment to Krishna Katha. That's the sign when you actually become very attached, and you also start to lose your attachment to other things in this world. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Priyojita Janayati Asuvairagyam Gyanam Chayat Ahaitakam. All right, one other question from Praneshra, who's still alive. You have to unmute yourself, Praneshra. Okay.
Gurudev, my question is like in the preaching, the people say, "Can you show me God?" and "Can you show me Krishna?"
Yes.
Then, like, what to answer to them?
I would answer. There's several different ways. If they were a little pious, I take them into the temple and show them the deities. And if they're not so pious, I say, I would ask them, what's your qualification? Can you introduce me to the Prime Minister? Can you show me the other side of the moon? I mean, so many things exist that we can't see. So that's how I would answer. What is your qualification? Why should God want to see you? That's my question. I would turn it around. If they say, "Can you show me God?" I would say, why would God want you to see him? Give me a good reason. You're doing all this nonsense. I mean, there's a lot of people do. I mean, like for example, there's a butcher or a murderer or a thief or something like that. I don't want to see them. God has taken out a restraining order against us. I don't know if you know what a restraining order is. Restraining order is when you don't want to see someone, you go to the police or the judge and you get them to issue an order that that person can never come here. So many times in the past, we've had to get restraining orders against certain people coming to the temple because they're a danger or a botheration or something like that. All right? That's one way. I'm sure there's other ways of answering it too. But basically, I would say, what's your qualification for seeing God? Or I might say, if they're pious, I could show you God, but you have to undergo this process to make yourself qualified. If they're a little pious, I would say, here's the chanting in 16 rounds, following 4 regulated principles, offering your food to Krishna, and then God will gradually reveal himself to you, like he did to me. So that's how I would answer. But you have to follow the proper process. All right.
Gurudev, yes.
Okay. Good questions. So anyway, just one announcement before we end. Tomorrow evening, there's no class at the same time. Hopefully I'll broadcast from wherever I'm going tomorrow evening, which will be at our local time, about 7:15, 7:30 at night, which is really late for me. So that'll be tomorrow evening. No class at the regular time, but the next evening we'll have the class. And it'll be a Sunday feast class, but I think we'll continue with our study of the Isopanisad, because we've almost finished with the Isopanisad. And then we can go on to the next book, whatever the book is that we're going to go to, which should be exciting. We'll keep that a secret until it's ready to go. So, on that happy note, all glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami,